What's good, B-Sounds? I'm Kit Kinraid, and I was recently asked, how do you train legs with a bad back? Now that's a great question. I don't know the specifics of your injury, and I'm not a physiotherapist or a medical professional of any kind, so it might not help me if I did. I can, however, offer you some advice that you can try, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, no harm done. Obviously, try these things at a 1 out of 10 intensity initially. Work up slowly with patience and diligence so that if you find any of these things do aggravate your injury, you'll find out gently and not with a snap. Because I notice a lot of people, and I'm sure this isn't you, but they take time off training a body part for an injury, and then they try and pick up their program basically exactly where they left off, and for some reason, it never goes well. So please don't do that. It is dumb. Great news though. As your legs are detrained, you're going to see gains even from the very first sessions, which previously might have been an absolute waste of time. Your legs are thirsty, and they are going to drink this shit up. All right, firstly, if you work out at a gym that has a belt squat, that thing is now your bestest friend. It lets you load your legs without loading your spine at all. So, number one recommendation, belt squat. 3 light sets of 8-ish, light like you think, what's the point in this? Well, the point is to see if it fucks you up. And if you're good 48 hours later, either add a bit more weight or a few more reps. Progressively overload, baby. That's the ideal situation if your gym doesn't have a belt squat, or if you're training from home, there are a couple of pretty easy ways that you can replicate the belt squat. You will need a dip belt and something to elevate yourself on. At a gym, it could be like plyometric steps or a couple of benches. At home, it could be a couple of chairs just while you're still going light to see if it works for you. And then when you get to the point where you need something actually sturdy, you still don't need to spend any money. Just find a decent quality pallet, ask at a local DIY place, or drive around till you see one, because they're everywhere. Saw it in half, ta-da. Now on the bottom of your squat, on your pallets or your chairs or whatever, attach a weight plate or a kettlebell or anything heavy to the dip belt, squat away. Dunzo. You can also set this up with a landmine if you have one. You need one of these doohickeys, same deal, kind of easier to load, kind of more of a pain in the ass to set up, kinda, but it might be less uncomfortable on your back. If you can be arsed with some DIY and you have a pulley system, Kaisen Gym has a ridiculously easy belt squat build that I'm sorely tempted to make myself just for shits and gigs. So if you can be bothered with a bit of DIY, definitely go for that, because you're probably going to be doing this a lot. So that is top tier, shouldn't bother your back at all, because none of the weight is sat on your back, it's sat on your hips. And if it's your very low back that's the problem, and you find that the belt is digging into that area, try putting it on backwards. Now your spine is free and unloaded, and that should legitimately help. Next. Have you tried a leg press? Pretty ubiquitous, and if your injury is in the right place, it shouldn't bother you at all. You want to mess around with your feet position and how much you curl your ass under you, and in your case, that should be as little as possible. And you should be able to find a place where you can press comfortably without transferring that tension into your injured spot. That's honestly probably all I'd recommend. Again, I don't know about your specific injury, but I would definitely stay away from anything plyometric. Often people start rehabbing with bodyweight exercises and they're like, oh, how do I make bodyweight exercises harder? Plyometrics. For you, that's not a good idea. You could add a double bottom to both those bodyweight squats and lunges, and that would really ramp up their muscle building potential. Just make sure you're controlling the whole movement. It's not about speed, it's about tension. And if you're already injured, speed is only going to eventually find and irritate that injury. So yeah, that is my leg recommendations. And I know you didn't ask for it, but here's some other recommendations too. If it were me, for my back, I'd be trying to build stability doing bird dogs, 10-second holds aside, keeping your body over the midline and not drifting over your floored knee. And I'll be working up to doing 10 to 15 reps aside 3 times a day, working up to, not starting there. I would want to have deadlifts as an end goal, and I would start working towards that with just bodyweight good mornings. Again, slow and controlled, working on pain-free depth over time and great back positioning. Now I say pain-free, but I will remind you that the human body is an absolute nightmare, and pain does not actually equal injury. Now I'm not saying that you're not injured. I'm saying that some of this stuff might cause you pain, but might not actually be detrimental to your injury. So how do you figure that out? Unfortunately, trial and error. If you become able to do more work with the same or ideally less pain, then what you're doing is working. I made a whole video on that and I'll stick it up here, one of these. Core-wise, I would want that to be strong because it's going to back up my back or front up my back. I wouldn't be keen on flexion or extension to begin with, so I would be doing hollow body holds all fucking day. And then probably an L-sit when I had enough strength to do that pain-free. And then when I was strong in both those positions, I would consider moving between them in a non-spinal smashy manner. So I wouldn't be doing crunches or V-sits or sit-ups or anything that put my back on the floor, certainly until I was largely pain-free. I would be starting with either hanging knee or leg raises. Slow and controlled being the sponsor of this episode. Slow and controlled, especially on the negative, so I'm not overextending and like swinging my vertebrae together. For the rest of my back, I'd be steering clear of bent over rows and possibly even inverted rows if I didn't have the stability or maybe even the mobility to get into that position. So I would probably be doing chest supported rows, seal rows if I could, and pull-ups. So many pull-ups. Pull-ups have the wonderful byproduct of decompressing the spine, and if you learn to do a hollow body pull-up or an L-sit pull-up, also working on that core stability, which you so desperately need. Pull-up is king. Lastly, pressing. A bit of a weird one because you would think, why would that be a problem? But if you've ever had a really good snapped back, you know that even holding your core stable for a push-up or like dumbbell pressing, getting into the position with those dumbbells can be frighteningly uncomfortable. So I would make best friends with your Smith machine. There is genuinely no shame in it. Smith machines were built for this exact purpose, and you can press on that bitch at any angle and you don't have to worry about instability, which if your back is fine is a negative, but in this case is absolutely perfect. You're probably going to have to care more about bracing than anyone else ever has during pressing, but that's the price you pay for being a snapped up beast. I feel like I've talked about the Valsalva maneuver every video for like the past ever, so I'm not going to do it again. You can find it somewhere in one of these videos. In fact, I might just like make a short so we can link to just the short and then we never have to mention it again. Yeah, so I think we've covered everything essential. You got a bunch of options and I wish you the very best because being snapped sucks. My personal plea to you is whatever you do, don't not train. That is how you stay snapped forever. People be like, oh, I didn't develop the muscle around my injury prone site and now it hurts all the time forever and for always. I'm like, I wonder why. Please, please, I'm begging you, don't be that guy. Thank you so much for the question. I'm sure you're not that guy, otherwise you wouldn't have asked the question. I hope this helps. If you have your own question that you'd like me to answer, leave it in the comments below and I will definitely get back to you. If you found this useful, leave it a like, but whatever else you do, get them gains. Be well.